fought us. Not us united.
Die. Oh! I can so see that. That's it. Welcome to Two Capes Live, the official podcast of Comics League. I'm your host Jared, and I'm here with Syl Abdul. Well, welcome to the show, brother.
Oh, great! It's great to finally connect with you, man. On camera.
Yeah. We've been trying to set this up for a while, so. Normally, whenever I have a new guest, I normally just ask them like the general question. So, what got you into DC Comics, YouTube, the whole shebang?
Yeah, well, DC, man, it's Tim Burton Batman. Batman '89. That was kind of my first exposure to just Batman and that world, and so that got me into comic books. And around that time, I always say my trinity of comics was Batman, Spider-Man, which is the Todd McFarlane run back in the day, Jim Lee X-Men. Those are the three runs, that got me into it. And so DC stood out more to me though, even though I liked X-Men, the X-Men animated, Spider-Man animated. But DC just stuck with me, right? And so that's kind of been what I lean more towards, and it's kind of reflected in my audience now too, where I could try to talk about Marvel stuff when no one watches those videos, but when I do DC,
exactly,
people know when your heart's in it. People know.
Exactly. Yeah, for me, it was actually the Snyder cut that really started all this and got me really into all this, because I was a comic book fan, but I was more like a fair weather comic book fan, where I was like, I had a couple, and then that thing got announced, so I was like, okay, I got to get back into this stuff now.
Yeah. That's when I started my channel, though, to answer that part of your question. When I started my channel, because like I said, DC, I'm getting DC comics, the death of Superman, when Batman got his back broke, Nightfall, all that stuff. So when the Snyder Cut was announced, and then you had a DC Fandom 2020, that's when I started my channel, August of 2020. And it was about just celebrating that the cut is finally coming out. So that's literally how my channel started. Because of the Snyder Cut.
There you go. And there was a moment when I was sitting down to watch it where I was like, please don't suck. That would be so heartbreaking if after 3 years we keep paying for this thing and it's terrible. Luckily, it was probably one of the best DC movies of all time.
It was the best DC film since Dark Knight. Like, really, it was.
Yeah. Don't tell Zaslav that, otherwise he'll dispute that. But yeah, so it was really that, and then it's like the channel got momentum all of a sudden. But now so I actually found your stuff because naturally after the Snyder Cut came out, we were all like, okay, so can we get more? And then Sarnoff showed up and was like, no. We're like, what? It crashed your servers. What are you talking about? We're not getting more.
That was so crazy. That was such a crazy weekend because it was within 72 hours. We got the Snyder Cut. It debuted on HBO Max. And actually, I was able to watch it early. Shout out to Tyler of Subjective Reviews. That's the homie. He did content for years before the Snyder Cut was even when we was campaigning. He got an early copy of it, and he allowed me to view it with him.
You lucky.
Much love to him.
Jeez.
And then when it finally was officially released, though, you had the Kevin Smith red carpet event. It was just such a wonderful night. That Sunday, the article dropped where Sarnoff on a Sunday. Sarnoff saying so it drops on a Friday. The article comes out on Sunday saying Snyderverse over. Right? I was like, oh my goodness, man. So when you do content, I'm sure you realize this. You kind of evolve with what's going on, and we went from celebrating the Snyder Cut. I was going to start doing different shows. Like I may still do this idea, so someone may steal this, but after the Snyder Cut came out, I was like, I'm going to obviously do a review. Then I'm going to do like a character profile for each of the Justice League members with the whole screen. You know what I mean? About Cyborg. We're going to try to get Ray Fisher on there. And so I was thinking of all kinds of different things to do. The Cernoff hits us with that, and so it evolved to like, F Warner Brothers.
Well, yeah. Actually, I have a perfect clip that basically summarizes that.
Yeah, second Warner Brothers.
Yeah. I had a whole stream.
That was awesome when that came out. I was like, oh God, this is great. I just love how everyone's been making fun of Warner Brothers, because at that moment I was like, maybe they don't know what they're doing, because you can't tell me that movie, a 4-hour movie, it became like, it's one of those movies where when it comes out, it becomes a cultural like requirement to be like relevant in order to watch it. Like you had people not associated with with DC or anything saying restore the Snyderverse. So I was like, you united the DC fan base, and then you divided them again.
It was a lot of blue check marks, as we say, was even saying like, oh, I never watched any of these films, but it's a long film. I think about Leslie Jones, that comedian.
That was great.
She was live chatting like, this is a long ass movie, but this is great. You know what I mean? And so we had a lot of people, general audience, obviously us hardcore, and that was a perfect film to just, spin off of, but they said no.
Well, yeah, and obviously those people got fired for good reason. But see, the thing is, and obviously I'm wearing the Cell shirt. The thing is that, so recent events, have you noticed this? More and more people are like, you know what? Maybe this could actually happen, because HBO was all of a sudden licensing any show to Netflix. And I'm like,
crazy.
And I'm like, wait, what? So actually, we were doing a discussion of who would buy Warner Brothers if like Discovery sold them. So my buddy, as a joke, says Netflix. That way, Netflix would have literally bought the Snyderverse.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. I mean, shout out to Skywalker the Jedi. I'm sure you know him. He came up with the hashtag sell ZSJL to Netflix. And now, like you said, with Netflix literally buying HBO content, they literally can buy ZSJL, which I think is amazing. And if that does happen, man, that just opens up so many possibilities.
Yeah, because part of that licensing deal would be, hey, we have the option to continue this if we want. And then they could just say, this is Elseworlds. Anything on Netflix is not associated with James Gunn's DCU. That's it. And I've had people say, well, they don't want to compete with whatever James Gunn's doing. Then why is he allowing the Batman and the Joker movies to continue? Because he's doing a Batman thing. I don't understand.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think they would do it? It'd be more. It would definitely be more popular. Let's face it. But you know what I noticed? When the Snyder Cut came out, there were so many people posting on Twitter, I was wrong about Zack Snyder.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was his most, people may take this some kind of way, but it was Zack's most commercial film I think he's ever done, making it more accessible for general audience. Because like I said, a lot of people got lost with BVS, with the Watchmen film, when Zack was really going deep with stuff. But when he really tried to kind of, quote unquote, dumb it down a little bit for the general audience, it's, a lot of people was like, oh, I get Zack Snyder now, So.
Well, yeah, because you also see the arc. So if there were parts of like BVS or Man of Steel that you didn't like, you then see where it was building toward, and you're like, oh, yes, this makes sense now. Thank you. Gunn probably won't do his Justice League for a long time anyway. That's true, too. I'm like, as far as we know, there's no Justice League in Chapter 1, which is supposed to be for the next, 10 years. But to be clear,
that's going to be very fluid. That's
going to be very fluid. I'm still convinced that about 99% of those projects probably won't happen. I'm still doubting if Superman happens at this point, because
oh man,
I gotta
it's all
say,
about Superman.
Yeah, I gotta say, with the precedent that DC has set, literally nothing is safe. They canceled Batgirl when it was almost done. Nothing is safe.
Oh, I tell you, man. I mean, yeah, it's all on Superman Legacy. And I was just told this a couple of days ago. Actually, they said basically, this is going to sink or swim off of Superman Legacy. Now, side note, and me and Jared, we talk like in chats and stuff. We're DC fans, so I want to see something good. If it's not good, I'm going to roast it, right?
But of course.
But
that's part of the fun.
All the chips are on Superman Legacy, because if that bombs, and then you got the whole long picture of Warner's being bought again, all this stuff, that whole slate's not going to happen the way that Gunn is trying to say. So it literally is sink or swim. Superman Legacy
right there. But it's also here's the other mistake James Gunn made. He goes, Blue Beetle is the first superhero in my new universe. So I'm like, okay, here's what you just did by saying that. If this fails, you're going into your universe with a black eye already before it even starts.
Yeah, exactly. Very weird, the fact that Gunn hasn't adopted anything up to this point. Like, he left poor Shazam out there just to be, destroyed. The Flash, that's a whole other story with the Flash right now.
I enjoyed that film, by the way. I didn't think it was that bad. There's some parts where I was like, weird. The only part that I think they should have gotten rid of is the George Reeves cameo. Because when you look,
a lot of people had issues with that.
When you realize why that dude offed himself, I wouldn't do that.
Wouldn't have put him on there, right? It's crazy. And so, I mean, there's some choices in there, but overall, I think The Flash is a good film. I'm gonna get that on physical media. I enjoyed the film. But everything surrounding it, this whole, I always call it DC brand confusion, DC disinterest. James Gunn didn't do that film any favors. I think he sabotaged it, really, taking Cavill out of the end. That's a whole nother story, right? But as far as adopting Blue Beetle, like you said, I mean, if it does terrible, which I don't think it's going to do that great.
No.
DCU's off to a bad start right there.
By the way, how's it feel? Because when I was watching that Flash, it was after watching all your predictions on what would happen with the Flash. It's like to a T. Like when Affleck goes, okay, so you went back in time like in Pizarnoff, and I was like, damn, Syl was right.
I tell you, man, I've been covering the Flash film for like 2 years now, right? So I had the whole story. I was joking with my viewers. I'm like, y'all already know the whole movie. Like, we've talked about this for 2 years, and then every change that happened when they did the additional stuff with Cavill at the end, I was like, oh yeah, something changed. They're gonna do Cavill, and then it changed. They took him out. They put in George Clooney. Like,
for some reason.
All that stuff was confirmed. So it was funny watching that unfold. And then when you get to the Clooney part, I was like, bro, I could just retire right now from like scooping. Like that was right on the nose.
Well, that was like the most accurate you have ever been. I've been watching religiously since like Black Adam, and this was like every single thing was right. And I was like, wait a second here.
It's a real leak, right? I mean, that's the funny thing, because I'm a little unique because most people that leak stuff, the level that I have, they're anonymous, right? And they probably have connections. They're probably like in California or something. I'm just some guy from Kentucky, so that's the perfect cover ever. So when things are leaked to me, you literally can't trace it, anywhere. So that's what made it kind of different and daring. But it's fun to actually see this stuff unfold. Like I said, with Black Adam, I really freaked out when I went to the opening day when Black Adam and Cavill came out. I was like, oh my God.
Remember how excited we were? It seems every time the DC family gets excited, Warner Brothers just finds some way to snap that out. Jeez.
Yeah.
James Gunn,
that was rough.
Yeah, it was also shortly after that too. Why can't Warner's let us celebrate once? So Brown Destroyer says James Gunn fans are Marvel fans, not DC fans. They're creating division. To a degree, I think that's right, because there were so many people that were like, okay, I saw Guardians 3 and I now have confidence in James Gunn as Superman. And I'm like, different characters and different. Can't go off of a Marvel director and say he'll do well at DC. That's how he got Joss Whedon's Justice League.
Exactly. Now, is James Gunn, is he a capable filmmaker? Like, take away what I feel personally about the Suicide Squad, not a fan. Peacemaker, was not a fan.
Yep.
Can he make films? Like, he's done great for Marvel, but like you said, can that translate, to something as big as Superman? And people got to keep in mind too, a lot of people are looking over James Gunn's shoulder, though he is co-head of DC Studios.
Yeah.
They are not going to allow Superman Legacy to fail just off of Gunn's ideas. If it fails, it's going to be everybody's fault. in WBD right now. So.
And Major League Gunn, because he's directing and writing it. So
they're going to put it on Gunn. Yeah.
They're going to put it on Gunn.
Behind the scenes, it's going to be a lot of fault. But yeah, public eye, Gunn would be the fall guy if that film fails.
And by the way, Katja, so in the scene when Barry first tells Bruce he went back in time, Bruce says, oh, he went back in time like in Pizarnoff.
Russian town, yeah.
He's basically referencing the awesome part in Zack Snyder's Justice League where the Flash goes back in time and saves everyone. And it's like with that movie, they reference 3 things that there's no way Joss Whedon's Justice League could be canon to this, because all these are very obviously Zack Snyder stuff.
Yeah, that was that was the craziest argument. I mean, it's social media, so of course it's gonna be crazy arguments, right? But for people who hasn't seen the film, those people got to realize sometimes you're arguing with ghosts and bots sometimes too. But some of these people, they even see the Flash film. It's like, oh, Justice is canon. I'm like, bro, like there's literally dialogue in the film talking about the Snyder Cut. I'm sorry. Now you don't have to like the movie. I'm not saying that's what makes the movie good or not. But let's be accurate here, right? It's canon to the Snyder Cut.
Yeah, but Joss Whedon invented the lasso of truth. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, after the Whedon cut, I think that it got to the point where if there's any type of humor in a DC film, people were like, "Oh no, it's Justice League," which I get what people I get when people say that, but I think people are forgetting it's hyper dependent on the character. Like Shazam, make that a comedy because it's Shazam. This version of the Flash, 100%. That's just the way I see it.
Yeah. Like I said, overall, I mean, the whole canon argument is I understand, but then on the other side, it's like people just wanted to attack the Flash film for various reasons too. So
how about that DC documentary that released the trailer that not only did they label the movie clips wrong, but they used footage from the Whedon cut of Justice League? I saw that and I'm like, well, that doesn't work.
I'm convinced like there's a lot of people within Warner still that's just out of touch. Just like self-awareness is not a strong suit for Warner Brothers.
Here's the thing. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing because the right hand is telling us about how awesome the Snyder Cut is, and the left hand is where this is happening.
It's insane, man. It's insane. It's like they really can't get out of their own way. And you would think the merger was going to change that. It's just a whole nother set of problems now.
Yeah. The rumor that Superman Legacy is basically going to be Superman versus the Elite, but with the Authority instead of the Elite. Well, yeah. Kind of, but I mean,
that'd be cool.
That'd be cool. I would love that. I love that comic / movie. And then I thought they would bring Brainiac. I thought he said they were going to do Brainiac.
Well, Cavill's film would have been Brainiac.
Yes.
As far as Gunn, I'm not expecting Brainiac. No, in his first film, no.
Yeah, I had this idea where if they did Man of Steel 2. They could bring in Sasha Kaye, have her be super aggressive and almost killing someone. Then you can have a moment of bonding between her and Cal when she goes, "You've never had to take a life." And he goes, "Well, yeah, I have."
That would have been a cool scene right there. And it's like I wouldn't say original plan. That possibly could have happened in Man of Steel 2. The scene that I leaked was with Cavill filmed at the end of The Flash, where he meets Sasha Kaye, right? And that was literally setting up Man of Steel 2. Maybe he would train her or something, right? So,
but here's the thing about that.
Until it wasn't. You
could have just put that in there because, Superman is saying, I'm gonna teach my cousin how to be a superhero. Yeah, that could set up a sequel, but that could be just establishing in this universe. Cavill has a cousin and he wants to work with her.
No, yeah, I mean that was an easy layup right there, and you know. We know they're rebooting, right? So it's like they could have just left it in there for us to say goodbye.
Rebooting, yeah. I don't know at this point because they say rebooting, but we're gonna keep all the actors that Gunn wants. And then did I say it was? And then Gunn will go, "I never said it was a reboot." Yeah, you did, but he's like, "I changed my mind. We're gonna do like a partial reboot." And then I'm convinced at this point. By this point that my conspiracy theory, this could end up being wrong, but if I'm right, mark this in this stream that they could change like Legacy to be like a retcon of the story of Henry Cavill Superman, and then the next movie is Henry Cavill Superman. In other words, if they decide to like modify the plan and bring Cavill back, that's the way they can explain it without having to reboot again.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go with because I was hearing this since before Cavill made his announcement that he was done. I heard that it was recasting everyone except the Suicide Squad, and That's pretty much what's happening. The gun's
That's
going to
pretty
keep.
much what
His people.
happening.
I'm expecting Margot Robbie. I mean, I'm not 100%, but I'm expecting her to come back as Harley.
I'm fine with that.
And,
I'm fine with that.
Peacemaker and all that stuff. So yeah.
Michael DeLuca was the only intelligent WB executive in Pam Abdi because didn't they want to give one more like Justice League film with the original cast to like end it out?
Yeah, it was gonna be one last ride. That's why they brought in Cavill. They paid Cavill to come in and put that scene at the end of the Flash to set up Man of Steel 2. Gal Gadot was there as well too, setting up Wonder Woman 3, and then there was gonna be one more team up film. I think Batfleck was going to be in Wonder Woman 3 in this. It wasn't going to be a Batfleck movie, I don't think.
No.
But he was going to show up in Wonder Woman 3 and then like some other team up film. And it was going to be the last ride of the Snyderverse. And they were going to reboot the whole time. It's just we was going to get some kind of ending of the story. Now, people would have fought about that too, Jared. Like, because it wasn't going to be the full Zack story. They were just going to kind of close out the arcs of those actors.
I still think that at some point, I'm convinced that at some point they will close out the actual story of the Snyderverse. In other words, we'll get JL at the very least JL 2 and 3, or like condensed into one film. Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking. If I'm going to like bet on something, I mean, I'm definitely hoping for the Syl, the Syl movement. Me and you follow that.
Heck yeah.
Pretty closely. And I think that's the only chance. I mean, it's not going to happen under Gunn, on Warner's, we understand this, right? So if a third party was going to do it, preferably Netflix, I think it's going to be one more project and maybe that can close out the story. And it'll probably be a little smaller scale too. This probably won't be the world versus Dark Side today to what Zack was trying to do, but it'll probably be Dark Side just versus the 7, so.
Which I'd be fine with.
I'll take that. Yeah,
I'll be fine with that. Particularly if they do. I swear, if they do that, I want Junkie to do like some version of the Justice League Unlimited theme in the background, please.
Oh, that'd be dope.
Because that would be great. And then Dave the Impaler says, I would like that, referring to Superman, but I don't see them bringing in a new actor for just one movie. Maybe Cavill Superman would exist alongside him, like the post-crisis and New 52. They could do that, but well, then again, remember, this is Warner Brothers we're talking about. They've been doing some really weird stuff that no one predicted for years now. And then Brown Destroyer says, Jared, are you talking about David Cornsweet aging out as Henry Cavill Superman? Yeah, what I'm saying, because the dude looks exactly like Henry Cavill. I'm a little suspicious of that. I'm like, a lot of the actors that they were considering look like a young Henry Cavill.
Yeah, Cornsweet. I call him Junior, because it's literally Cavill Junior. It's literally is we know what Gunn's doing. And yeah, I think the guy's going to do a good job. I know there's a lot of backlash from Snyder fans, and I get it. But again, I keep an open mind with all things DC. I give everything, unless it's like Justice League level of betrayal. I can't give that.
Like Birds of Prey.
So Cornsweet. Hey, I hope he does a great job. Rachel Brosnahan. She looks like, young Margot Kidder to me, so I'm not mad at these new cast members, but I want Zack's story to finish in some kind of capacity.
Well, yeah, and I always tell people Zack's story stands the best chance of being completed if the DC as a brand is healthy. Because if DC Studios makes money, or like if the DC brand is healthy, that encourages now show interest in it.
Definitely.
That's the way it works.
Brand.
I get people are upset because of what happened with Henry Cavill. Trust me, I am too. But sometimes you gotta roll with the punches. Definitely, the Snyderverse will be concluded in some form. I'm hoping live action, but could be animated or a comic too. They could just what I always said they could do like animated, or if they do a graphic novel, have the tie-ins be the other movies that were supposed to happen, like the Affleck movie, the Man of Steel 2.
Yeah, so I've been hearing for a little while that some version of a Snyderverse story is going to be comic form. Like I literally heard this not too long ago. Not saying that's going to be like the JL story. I just heard that Zack Snyder and DC, Jim Lee's supposed to be involved in some capacity. I know it's not announced yet, so I guess that's a little scoop for people. But I'm expecting like a Snyderverse comic, and I will snatch it up real quick. If
I get the
Jim
thing,
Lee
everyone did.
Does it? Come on now.
Did you see what happened when Zack just had Final Crisis in the background of a picture? That the expensive Absolute Edition, which are about $100 each, sold out.
bro. Like I should have wore my shirt. He did the full circle shirts. Jim Lee did the art on those, right? And
I have one
those,
on my chair right there.
yeah,
Yes.
that's like a dope. That's a dope picture that he put on there. So yeah, anything Jim Lee anyway, I'm gonna buy it. You get him with doing the Snyderverse.
It's Jim Lee.
Yeah. Like let's
In fact,
do it.
over there, I have a Batman Catwoman poster signed by him.
Hey, that's dope, man. Jim Lee does the best Batman. Like,
oh yes.
Yeah.
It's the best Batman and really the best like Justice League because he was the artist for like a long time on the old Jeff Johns run. I know I said the name that must not be said. That was the best part of Full Circle when someone asked about Doomsday Clock and Zach's like, yeah, probably not. That was the greatest thing ever.
It was so funny because I was literally sitting, me, Skywalker, and Leon of the New Geeks. We was all sitting behind the kid when he was asking the question. And when he was talking about Doomsday Clock, I was like, no. I was like, no, don't ask that. I was like, no. And he asked, and then Zach was like, oh, is that Jeff Johns? And everyone was like, yeah. He's like, probably not.
Yeah. And then the other guy just walked off the stage.
Everyone lost it. Like inside that theater, man. That was like a highlight moment right there.
That was great. The other highlight is because I was watching the live stream, how people reacted to Ben Affleck showing up.
Oh my.
As soon as Ray Porter said the finest Batman, I was like, wait, what?
Bro, y'all have no idea. Like the hype, like we was at the IMAX, right? So first we're seeing Zack Snyder's Justice League in IMAX. Like that's just epic enough.
Ooh, lucky.
You know what I mean? That just was epic. Especially the end where Flash turning back time. Like just to see that in IMAX, everyone should experience that. Like I really, but after that, you off of that high. You know, and then you got Chris Terrio coming up there talking about the film and the Snyderverse. And then he brings up Ben Affleck. Man, I lost it. Probably lost my voice when Ben Affleck came out, bro. Like, that was just so cool for him to do that for Zach. And, bro, man, that was another highlight for sure.
And also, the other thing, if you paid attention to a lot of what Zach said, you notice how, like, when someone asked about Robin, he goes, well, I'm going to give you a general answer because I think that could be cool to see in the future. And even like the moderator goes, it could be something we get to see in the near future. So we're watching this on panel, and I'm like, wait, if it's not happening, and what's up, Nick? If it's not happening, why not just tell us what's happening with Rob? If something isn't happening, why not just tell us what's going on with Robin?
Exactly, because Zach, he's done that before, right? The discarded Justice League story where the Bruce and Lois relationship. Zach gave it. He's like, hey, this is what I was going. The scary idea, right? Him and Chris Terrio was talking about that. They gave us details of that.
Yeah.
When you get to the Robin, Zach always stops short. And all you could do is think. Now, Leon, he was there with me, and if people, I did a stream, but he played his video. He was talking to Zach, and he's like, "You think something's gonna happen with Robin? You know that story because you didn't tell us, Zach." And trademark Zach's like, "Hey, we'll see, maybe." That's all you're saying. So.
Let me ask you this: would you? Because I know a lot of. I love how how like real DC fans freaked out at abandoned ideas. I have to say abandoned. But what do you think of the whole idea of the gods being Kryptonians? Because I kind of dig that.
I thought that was dope. I mean, people can't allow people to be artistic and creative no more. You know what I mean? It's like Zach and Terry was trying to bring this into one contained Snyderverse world, just his story.
Based
so
on
for all
Superman.
this to make sense, exactly, make it all start with Kryptonians. That literally would make sense, like in his world, right? Now, if you want the cookie cutter version, go read those old comic books, right? Go watch those other movies. But in the Snyderverse, that would have been wonderful. And then ideas are just ideas on paper. It's about the execution. That's what people got to realize too. If you would have executed it wonderfully, I mean, hey, just imagine if you didn't, before you saw Man of Steel, Kal-El fights Zod and then he breaks his neck at the end. Oh, that was the idea. But then when you actually see the movie, you see why he snaps his neck, right? So
I argue with I was on a debate and I was on a panel. I was the only Snyderverse person, Snyderverse fan, and You should have seen me. I was like Superman against Steppenwolf defending it because they were like, because someone called Superman a murderer, and I'm like, if we're talking about Superman murdering people, how about Christopher Reeves in Superman 2, who depowered Zod, then punched him into a wall? At least this guy begged for Zod to stop. I'm like, wait a second here.
I'm just saying, like when Zod slides down, like he didn't live, right? I'm just saying.
Not even that. Not even that. He punched him so hard Zod is now human. He flies across the room and smacks into an ice wall. Yeah, he's dead. He's dead.
I think he's dead, right?
I'm pretty sure. That's why I tell people every movie version of these characters has killed because here's what people don't understand. Yes, it's nice to have comic book fans watching these movies because we know all this stuff. But the studio is going for the general audience, and the general audience is not gonna buy to take Batman. That we have this dude that punches up criminals and has never killed anyone.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, Batman '89, he was like a mass murderer, right? Like,
Yeah, I had to argue with someone because someone goes, "No, '89 Batman never killed," and I'm like, "Did we see the same movie?" He dropped a grenade in someone's pants and smiled.
Well, that was Batman Returns, so that was in '92, and then at the end of Batman '89, going up the clock tower, he's murdering everyone. Then he kills the Joker at the end. So it's like, what are we talking about?
I love Batman doesn't use guns. How about every Batman that had cannons on the Batmobile? That still counts. I'm just saying. Yeah. No one's kneeling before Zod anymore. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
And yeah,
that's how you settle that.
On fire.
That was Batman Returns as well too. He turned the Batmobile around and thrust the
even Matt Reeves. Because if you notice, there was that scene in the final battle. Batman grapples with someone with a rifle, turns it around, and then the dude reflexly fires. And I'm like, based on Batman's own rules, yeah, he killed him. Let's not forget the Bale. I won't kill you, but I don't have to save you.
Right. Which is as close but Nolan, he did toe that line as close as possible. Tim Burton just didn't care. There's interviews out where Tim Burton was like, I didn't like that rule, no kill. He's gonna murder everybody.
Even that. Remember in Dark Knight when Batman drives the Batmobile into a truck and the truck like jumps up and pancakes into like the top of the medium. So I'm like, that guy's killed. I mean, that guy's dead. And I'm like, if you tell me no guns, I don't kill. What was that?
You can't like pancake people. Like that's death too.
Yeah, I'm just like, I had people arguing with like, are you okay with Batman being a murderer in the Snyderverse? Okay, it's part of his arc. If you've actually watched the movie, no one defends Batman killing people.
Well, Alfred's calling him out the whole time about it. You know what I mean? Like that's part of the story. And then you get to the Justice League moment where he's like Faith, so it's like it's literally a whole arc. And then he's going to sacrifice himself, which is the perfect way to do it.
I was debating someone, and then they go, "Oh yeah." So we were talking about Lex Luthor's plan, and I go, "Well, it's actually." I went through the plan, and they go, "It should have been the movie," and I'm like, "It was." Okay, I got to ask this: what version of BVS did you watch? And she said, "I watched the theatrical version." I'm like, "Well, that explains it." It's amazing how much that half hour is needed in that movie. Isn't that funny?
Oh man, it's crazy. And see, this is the thing: the theatrical version, I did go see it 4 times in the theater because I still think it was a good movie. But Ultimate Edition, yes, you definitely need the Ultimate Edition, and you should never go back to theatrical after that.
Mm-hmm. And Jared, have you read the comics of Superman where Rao fathered all Earthbound gods in post-crisis? Oh, that's interesting. Well, again, people say Zach does not read the comics, and I'm like, then why do I see so many comics? My favorite is when people say, you're just a Snyder fan, you don't read the comics. And I'm like, hello?
I swear, man. Well, and you caught all the references that Zach put in the films, especially BVS. That's walking through all kinds of references in that. Yeah.
They use lines from Dark Knight Returns like word for word in there. It's the point because I saw BVS before reading the book. So all of a sudden I'm reading the book, and then all of a sudden I cut into Ben Affleck's Batman voice saying, "We're criminals, Alfred. We've always been criminals." And I'm like, gosh.
Yeah, all
dang.
straight from the comics. I mean, it got so meta with Zack Snyder. He literally did the shot of the Dark Knight Returns cover, like in BVS. Like once I saw that, I was like, okay, this is a comic book fan right here. Like there
Yeah.
was no reason for that lightning strike to come at that moment, and Ben's pointing down like that. I'm like, okay.
The dude recreates comic panels in the movie. You can't tell me the dude does not read superhero comics at all.
That was so cool. That was so cool to see that.
It's particularly in Justice League. Like my favorite like moment in Justice League is like that entire last hour where it's just that one battle where you have like the Justice League slow motioning Aquaman.
Oh,
I was so glad in this version Aquaman also went my man, because I'm like, that was like the one part of Whedon cut that I actually liked.
right.
And then then the Superman scene happens, because when Steppenwolf's approaching Cyborg, I thought, okay, Cyborg's gonna get hurt. Then the axe hits the shoulder, and you even hear a metallic clang because he's the Man of Steel, and I'm like, yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah, it's like they literally saw this and said, no, let's take this out of the Justice League film. Like, are you serious?
The best part was the Flash scene winning an Oscar and Toby Emmerich being in the audience for that.
Right.
And I'm like, hey, dude, middle finger, dude, middle finger.
Like, literally, this scene won an Oscar, and you decided to take that out of the 2017 cut. Amazing.
Yeah, and then Tevye says we saw Flash to save the day. Yeah, that was awesome. And then the fact he pulled KG Beast shows he has read the comics, because no one exactly, Nick, no one who has not read the comics would know. Wait, let me say, a person who has not read the comics would have no idea who the hell KG Beast is.
Oh, yeah. That's a deep cut, for general audience. That is
exactly. And then Jared, Google IDCAP, Rao, Kryptonian, cosmic being, created all the earthbound gods, which means Greek gods. Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, I got into an argument with someone, and so someone said it ruins Wonder Woman's lore. I'm like, well, how? All it does is give an origin for the gods.
If we're gonna keep it real, Wonder Woman has a messed up lore. If you in 2017, Wonder Woman kind of addressed that, where she's made from clay. No, not really. You're born from a god, you're fathered by God.
That's what happened, because in the new 52 Wonder Woman by Azzarello, they did that exact thing. We're like, oh, that was the story she was told. And again, and when people say all these movies were super dark, I'm like, have you read the comics that were coming out at this time period?
Bro. And then, I mean, New 52, I think is that what had the Dark Side Wars?
Yeah,
that was pretty dark. That was pretty dark.
That was my favorite era, because it finally put Superman and Wonder Woman together. Which I always felt that those two work. But my favorite part of Full Circle is when Zack Snyder was talking about Wonder Bat, and he goes, yeah, I mean, to a certain degree, I like it, but when you really do the math on it, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because my other co-hosts, they know that I can't stand Wonder Bat, so they'll bring it up just to screw with me. So I was like, eat it! That's why I made a video of that. That's just my intro, that scene, the outro. I'm done. That's all I got to do.
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, it's a shipping moment for people. Wonder Bat. I think the animated had that a little bit too as well, but and some comics too. I mean, so it's references to Wonder Bat, but I think I kind of push back on Superman and Wonder Woman. I think you got to keep it Superman and Lois in the long run. I think. Yeah,
but I got a lot of heat for this video. I did a video talking about how myself arguing that Lois Lane is at this point not essential to Superman anymore, because she's basically just the way I see it, or at least the way DC writes her, is that she's just a damsel in distress at this point. Because if you know, and it spawned because I was reading, I think it was the World Saga, where like Lois Lane is like injured, is like in danger, and I'm like, so he's gonna save her. As soon as that happens, I'm sorry, I'm writing a comic. I can tell you that you don't want to have a moment when your audience says so.
Yeah, I think the thing with Lois is almost a Christopher Reeve versions made Lois essential forever. So it's almost like that's canon. You got to have Lois. That's just a part of Superman's story, like forever.
To be clear, I'm not saying cut the character out completely, because she plays a role. I'm saying the marriage to her doesn't work. But
that's debatable, yeah.
Debatable. But agree to disagree. But I love how many people thought that Zach was going in the Wonder Bat direction when you looked at he was going to bring in Catwoman, and nothing indicated that. That was just Zach referencing that Bruce flirts with everyone, which is again his character.
Yeah, I mean that's Bruce. I mean, you know, I think he nailed it perfectly in BVS. You know,
yes,
just with him, you know, walking up on Diana like, yo, you know, what was he saying? Like, something like you basically about 100 men would do, you know.
I know this.
And he's like, I'm the first, you know, I'm not the 100.
I'm the first to see through this look. The moment when that sold me on Gal playing Wonder Woman was when he goes, I've known a few women like you. She looks to him, just smiles and goes, I don't think you've ever known a woman like me. And then that moment where she's fighting Doomsday, she's knocked back and she just smiles. I'm like, man. There you go. Yeah. There you go.
Oh, yeah, Gal stole all of our hearts in a BVS right there.
Yeah, that was it. And it's because, again, I was a little hesitant on her as Wonder Woman because I was like, well, she's a minor character from Fast and the Furious, and she's playing arguably the third most iconic superhero of all time. And then again, that movie, I'm like, well, and plus, here's the thing: Zach's known for casting relatively unknowns that are perfect for the role. I mean, the only person of his cast that was really known was Affleck.
Yeah, definitely. And I think he nailed it with Ray Fisher. I mean, goodness, I mean, this guy is gonna, you know, just be a wonderful performer going forward. And man, I mean, we was robbed of that Cyborg film. That's one thing. I know there's a lot of stuff we wish we had with the Snyderverse. I want to see the ending of the story, but man, I would love to see that Cyborg project. That would have been wonderful.
It was the Kingdom of Nerds, or the original Flash movie that was supposed to be a buddy cop movie between Flash and Cyborg. That would have been dope.
For sure.
But see, that's my problem with Warner Brothers is that so I get that at first they thought that like the Snyderverse was not as popular as they thought it was. But the Snyder Cut comes out, they're shown that they have an objective measurement that people want this, and then they just wipe the hand away. Because can you imagine the positive DC will they could have built back up if they said, okay, we're going to bring Zach back. We're going to redo everything. We're going to release the Ayer cut, which I still think at the very least the Ayer cut's going to happen in light of the Schumacher cut thing going down. But the thing is, can you imagine how the positive DC like will that would have been built up had they said, yeah, we're going to continue this. We see what you want.
Oh man, I mean, I think it would have been easy, like business wise. I mean, when the Snyder Cut was finally released, again, general audiences were checking it out, you know, streaming it. There's a fabrications about the first weekend the numbers didn't do that great. The first one was a 4-hour film, so people got to keep that in mind. It's a 4-hour film. But then I had on my channel, I had Samba TV. They're an unofficial, you know, data analyst site where they track streaming numbers. And they said, oh yeah, the first weekend was kind of like average, but then you take the whole month of numbers. They said, oh, Snyder Cut like did wonderful for HBO Max, and you know that really was it kind of outdid pretty much anything that came out around that time. So I mean, people were watching the Snyder Cut, and so that would have been so easy to. I mean, that's why I think DeLuca and Abby was like, let's put Cavill at the end of the Flash, let's do the Man of Steel Part 2. And let's keep this going for at least one ride.
Also, this Lord of the Rings is 3.5 hours long. So, you know how well those movies did. That's why I'm like, when they're like, well, they had to cut a half hour out because no one's going to see a 3-hour film. They saw Lord of the Rings.
And man, BVS would have easily did $1 billion if you had the true version in the theaters.
It still got close to $1 billion, though. That's the funny part. People act like it failed. And I'm like, in what way that actually matters to the studios, really? Because I'm like, it made close to $1 billion.
No, and then not counting the digital sales, the Blu-rays and everything after that. But you know what really failed was Shazam. I mean, if you want to talk about failure, so it's like they would love to. If 800 million is a failure, they would love to have 800 million for the Flash right now. They would love that.
Sad part about the Flash is that in all likelihood, it should have made $1 billion when you have like Keaton coming back as Batman. But it's just, I just don't know what happened.
Oh, it's a combination of things. You know, some people blame the Ezra Miller allegations, which Ezra Miller is now fully exonerated. people don't talk about it no more when the charges are dropped, right? Everyone wants to hump, throw all this dirt.
That's not popular. It doesn't get
clicks. But Ezra never was grooming people. They never were doing any of these things. Were they a little weird when they got drunk? Yes, we got that on camera, right? But as far as, so I think that was kind of a cloud over the film. The Ezra Miller, and I say this because when it was time to market the film, they couldn't use their star to market the film.
Well, yeah,
you didn't know. No one knew who as far as general audience. I'm talking about our grandmas and aunties, and they didn't know who the Flash was. So when the film comes out and Keaton's not in the first hour of it, it's not going to have that, that the buzz they wanted it to have. So that's part of it. And then on top of that, it's just, I think they overhyped it for some reason. I think it's a good film, but man, they laid it on a little bit too thick, I think.
So it's not the best movie since The Dark Knight is what you're telling me.
That's not the best movie since Dark
My
Knight.
favorite is all the memes showing when they said like Aquaman is the best movie since Dark Knight. So it's not anything new that they've been doing this. The only one that could be true about is Zack Snyder's Justice League, but that's just because it's Zack Snyder's Justice League. But and too many. But by the time that we got to the actual release, the amount of people who would have like dogpiled in to see the movie had already.
They've seen it multiple times. I mean, it's people I talked to like on social media. They saw it like 4 times before the film came out, and they saw it all for free. So, I mean, that was a weird strategy. And I said, hey, either they're going to look really brilliant when the film come out or look like idiots. And I'm sorry, that was a bad idea to do that.
Yeah. Now, Tevye asked, do you think the James Gunn universe will succeed or fail?
It's all Superman Legacy. So if I'm going to, not to sidestep the question, I think Superman Legacy is going to be a success for them. So I think his DCU is going to at least have a decent start. And we'll see what happens when they get like to the Batman films and all that stuff.
Yeah, but here's another thing. The Flash bombing made James Gunn look bad because he was hyping it up too.
He was, but all Gunn has to do is say, hey, it wasn't DCU. That's all he has to say.
The part that I do blame him for is before these movies came out, he announces a reboot, which immediately tells the general audience that these movies aren't going to matter next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that didn't help. That was as far as the multiple reasons why the Flash failed. We talk about the Ezra misconception, the free screenings, announcing a reboot that killed Shazam. Right, that film just got slaughtered. And the Flash, I think, took a big brunt. They're just like, does this film even matter? So I don't think that helped general audience at all.
No, and which is sad because I liked Shazam too. I thought it was great, and again, I've enjoyed The Flash. I admit there are some weaknesses of the movie, but there are parts of it that I definitely like. But yeah, I'm like, immediately, it's like, because I get that you should be able to go see a movie on its own and just judge it for the merits on its own. But when you're dealing with a shared universe and you're telling everything has to matter in some way.
Yeah, and like with this film, I mean, I think the Batfleck stuff was great in the beginning. It's probably the best Bruce Wayne that Ben's ever done in the Flash film, and because that scene was wonderful, his last scene, and then Keaton was great as Batman. So it's like the film was kind of all over the place, so to speak. But I enjoyed it for what it was. It's just unfortunate, man. Just terrible timing.
I also wish they had moved the release date to make Flash the last movie that came out, because then you could say it rebooted, as opposed to like saying where's Aquaman taking place?
Yeah, well, James Wan, I guess, is getting ahead of that. I just covered this on my channel. He said, "Yo, this is a standalone film." He's like, "Don't worry about nothing else DC, whatever Gunn's gonna do in the future. Aquaman 2 is a Jason Momoa action film," and I'm like, hey, I'm sold. I think Aquaman 2 is going to be decent.
Yeah, I've heard rumors that it hasn't been testing well. Is there any like stuff behind that?
So I talked to like 3 different groups, people that saw 3 different test screens for Aquaman 2, and it got progressively worse. Each group I talked to, and so because at first it's like, oh, it's pretty decent, this and that, and that's when they was going to put Batfleck at the end, and then after that, like progressively, it just got like worse and worse reviews. The comedy is going to be the real key. So a lot of people that just hates laughing at DC films, they're gonna slaughter this film. But I think the first Aquaman did so great internationally and in China. I think it's gonna be kind of like bulletproof, and it's gonna make its money.
And that's because it's got
and
Jason Momoa.
Yeah, the women love Momoa. Yeah, he's gonna have his shirt off the whole movie. I mean,
right? That was the one time they have Ray spent a character, and it actually improved the character.
Aquaman needed to.
Oh yes,
needed to do something different.
It was kind of funny. They said when BVS came out, they were like 2016, the year Aquaman jokes finally died.
Yeah, I mean, he made him, a kick butt Aquaman, not fish jokes. Then James Gunn wants to go back to fish jokes.
And then the Peacemaker, which I get the idea of it, but see, that's another reason why I am very much like cautiously neutral about Superman Legacy because it's James Gunn's writing, and I don't want any of his infantile humor in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's a chance, right? It's James Gunn, right? He's writing it, he's directing it, producing it. His studio's putting it out. So yeah, but again, I do believe the fact that there was a committee, mostly Zazev, a part of the decision making to hire Corn Sweat. I think they're really going to be over his shoulder. But again, is that going to guarantee? That's going to be studio meddling now. Now we're going to go back to that now. So
we're back here.
I don't know. Yeah,
hashtag full circle.
So it's like, do you want full on James Gunn or do you want a studio film? I don't know what I want now.
I honestly, either options could be very good or very bad.
Exactly. That's Superman Legacy, everybody. That's
Superman Legacy. I am also hoping that they don't go with the trunks because I get the historical significance of the trunks on the comic book characters, but when you look at it in a modern context, it just looks stupid.
Yeah, I do believe, I haven't been told this like for sure, but I do believe Gunn's going to do the trunks. I really do believe he's going to do that. And he was passing around that picture of the old animated
the Max Fleischer.
The Fleischer Superman with the black shield. I mean, it's a good chance. Again, there's nothing confirmed with that, but I think he's definitely doing the trunks though. I don't think there's no way Gunn's not going to pass the opportunity to do some trunks.
Yeah, I know. I mean, if this is like early Superman, he could always catch them later if someone doesn't like it. So there is that. But real quick, also, I wanted to ask you, so what do you think of that Superman and Lois finale with Doomsday?
Oh, man, I love the show. I love Superman and Lois. I'm glad it's getting the 4th season, abbreviated season, so I think that's going to be it after 4 seasons. But this finale, the show is well written. I thought, like, man, they, in a sense, I guess it's out, so I guess we could talk spoilers, I guess, right? So, yeah. I just feel a great cliffhanger. That was a great cliffhanger, but I felt they should have kind of cut it off a little earlier. Like when they thought Superman was dead.
Yes.
They should have stopped right there. Right. And be like, oh man, because Jordan's like, I can't hear his heartbeat. And I was like, oh. And if it would have cut it off right there, I'm like, oh, they did it.
Superman,
right?
Baby. But
you know what I mean?
It would have been, I will say, after watching that, I'm so glad it was confirmed to get a 4th season before this, because if it got canceled on that cliffhanger, can you imagine how pissed off people would be? I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah. And you know what? Maybe, I got to double check this. Maybe they filmed it that way just in case they tried not to renew it. There's going to be after that finale, they were like, oh, Superman Lois is done. It would have been just mass hysteria on social media. Like, no, you cannot let this end in the middle of a fight with Doomsday, right? So I'm looking forward to the next season. Great finale. And, man, it's going to be one of the most watched DC shows when it comes back, I think, season 4.
What do you think the odds are in season 4 they actually do a Death of Superman thing for at least a couple of episodes? Because it's Doomsday.
I think they do have to lean into come on, when you do Doomsday, that's one thing with not that I'm saying this is a bad thing for the show Smallville, but they tried to do Doomsday. It was a little cheap, right? It's Smallville back in the day.
Hulk Doomsday.
It was like season 8, I believe, and they should have did the death of Clark there. When you bring in Doomsday, you got to kill Superman, right?
Yeah.
That's a rule. It's an unwritten
Zach knew
rule.
that. So it's
Yeah, you know what I mean? And then you could do the whole return or whatever you want to do after that. But you bring Doomsday, that means Superman has to die. And
Yeah.
so hopefully they do that episode 1, season 4, and Jordan takes over for, a couple episodes or something. Then bring Kal-El back because the son's going to, make sure he's revived and go out with a bang. I mean, it's like 10 episodes, I think, season 4.
They also have the 4 Supermen, kind of, because you got Jordan, who would be Superboy. You have Steel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love you have the erratic. I love Steel in that show. Jeez. Yeah. When they made you think he was Lex Luthor, and then all of a sudden he goes, "You're not the Man of Steel. I am." I jumped from my chair. I was like, "Wait, what?"
So this is the thing, because with CW, it's a love-hate thing with me and CW. Yeah. Because it's like I get representation and everything like that. And it's like I just hate when it becomes bigger than the actual story. Yeah. So when it was like, and again, this is a good sign of good writing. The Superman and Lois, we really thought that was Lex Luthor, but he just had his suit, right? Yeah. And when you find out it was John Henry, I'm like, yes. It was like a standing applause. I was like, yes.
Because they're using a pre-existing character. I'm like, there's plenty of awesome pre-existing, and he is one of them to put in. Of all the ones to put in a Superman show, John Henry frickin' irons. And honestly, the suit looked pretty cool. I get that they can't do the whole mouth thing on the suit as well because it's a CW show, but still, I was like, okay, I appreciated that.
Oh yeah. It was no problem with the way the suit is good for CW level. I think it looks good. I like they brought in his daughter Natasha. For you comic readers out there, still works. Natasha, that's a good arc in the comic, and they got an ongoing thing. Actually, she actually does suit up in the comics. But people like, oh, and this is the thing when people get mad, like, oh, stuff is woke and stuff. It's like, no, this is literally from the comics, buddy. Natasha gets a suit in the comics. Yeah. And the show is doing a good job with that. So yeah.
I do agree. A lot of stuff is labeled woke when it's not, when it's just it's the comics. We can have an argument if the comics are woke themselves, but that's a whole other thing. But I will say it is nice to live in an era where Superman comics are good again, because we had that Bendis era where everything kind of went down the toilet.
Oh my God. I think I stopped reading Superman comics. Like I just started buying, like literally buying the Superman comics with the Joshua Williams number 1 issue. Yeah, and that's a great start. I still got to catch up more, but
yeah, me too.
Yeah, that was a bad run for Superman comics.
The sad part, the mistake they made was giving him both action and Superman. If they had given him only Superman or action, I think people wouldn't have been as upset, because then you have an escape. But it's like they give him total control of Superman. And I'm like, that's a bad idea. That is a really bad idea. Because he works best if he's doing a street level character. That's the thing. That's why he did like Spider-Man, or I've heard his Batman story he did when he and Tom King flipped is actually pretty decent.
Yeah, Tom King kind of lost me a little bit with Batman. I love-hate thing with Tom King. I think he did some wonderful stuff at times. Tom King, like Mr. Miracle, I believe is one of his best ones. But half of his Batman run, the whole wedding to Catwoman, that didn't happen. I understand it should not happen. Bruce should not end up married. It's just I got a lot of issues with the Tom King
first half. Here's the thing about that run. The first half is good. The half after the wedding, where it goes downhill real fast.
Yes. It really went downhill, and I'm surprised I felt that way, because that's when he did the whole City of Bane. I thought I would love that run, that arc in that story. But he made Damian kind of stupid and useless, and Bruce was like not acting like Bruce. It just, and again, maybe let me preface this. It's because this came after the Scott Snyder run, the Court of Owls, and everything like that, right? And I think it just wasn't fair for Tom King to follow Scott Snyder's probably best, one of the best Batman runs ever. What Scott Snyder did.
It's funny on that Scott Snyder. You're like, okay, so it's a new Batman run. Starts with the Court of Owls and literally creates one of the most iconic stories of all time. By the way, I still think the Court of Owls are going to be the villain in the Batman 3.
That will be wonderful. I think they were trying to kind of seed that. Matt Reeves was with the owl, right, in the card. I was like, please do it. This is perfect for the Court of Owls. That world that Reeves built.
They also kind of built in Hush.
Yeah. Though I think it was a bait and switch because of the Riddler. I think, right?
Well, what I mean is that when Batman and Gordon go to the what is it? It was like an orphanage, and then they're playing the Wayne thing, and then the Riddle's revealing all the Wayne's dirty work. You see like a journalist named named Elliot, and the words "hush" flash on the screen.
Yeah, I don't, because again, it's like I don't know if it was like more of just a reference thing, like an Easter egg in it. Because Matt Reeves knows comics too, or at least he knows people that knows comics.
Yeah.
And so he was putting those references, like the Long Halloween. He was referencing that the entire film, right? The Long Halloween storyline. So I don't think we're getting Hush. I thought we would get that the first film, but Court of Owls, like, please do Court of Owls.
If ever there's a villain, there's a group of villains that is set up by this universe, it's the Court of Owls.
Perfect. Again, just the aesthetic of that world, perfect.
Yeah. And then Brown Destroyer says, I'm gonna say again, New 52 Superman was the best Superman arc I've ever read in DC Comics, but then they started the Truth storyline. Yeah, New 52 Superman was dope because it was basically Man of Steel, and then stuff happened. They put him on a motorcycle going across the thing. He's like fighting with his girlfriend, and I'm like, have you read Superman?
That guy, I think it was the Action Comics run. I think that's what we're talking about, right? It was a weird turn. New 52, weird. I kind of left off Superman at that period too after a while until Convergence, and then they brought back the Daddy Superman. They brought in Daddy Superman at that time. Which
Papa
Superman
Soups.
Lois is doing a great job, with that. So I'm real hit or miss with Superman. I take like a year off and then I go back to it.
The problem with the New 52 is it was marketed as a reboot, but then they didn't reboot everything. Like they kept Batman and Green Lantern, which I'm glad they kept Green Lantern at least, because I love that Jeff Johns Green Lantern run, which is basically DC's version of Star Wars.
Probably his best.
It is. That and Justice League are my two favorite books he ever did. But I'm just like, okay, if it's a reboot, you have to reboot everything.
There was not a good idea. Like, and this is after Flashpoint, right? If people don't realize the time period, Flashpoint, and then, like you said, they were going to start it. And this is the thing that upsetted me. After Flashpoint, then you had the return of Bruce Wayne going on at the same time. Yeah. Because he was lost after Darkseid supposedly killed him.
By the way, another time, Batman killed with a gun.
That is true. And then at that time, Dick Grayson took on the mantle, which was a lot of people's dream at that time. He was Batman. He was training Damian as a Robin. That was an awesome run.
That was awesome.
They was in a Gotham PD. It's Gotham Central had a comic going on at that time where they were working with Montoya a little bit. Batman. So Dick Grayson, Batman. Then you reboot, but really you don't reboot. And it's like I felt like we was robbed of like a true Dick Grayson Batman run. That would have been cool to see that.
And it's also, speaking of Batman, he's been Batman for 5 years, but he has 5 Robins.
And
what?
And the Bane thing happened, so his back was broke. He's been through all this stuff in 5 years, bro.
At this point, do you just give up if all this happens in such a short time period?
That's when it was like, okay, let's bring in Dr. Manhattan. We don't know what we're doing.
Wait, they also told me that Blackest Night happened when like a lot of the characters that are heavily important for Blackest Night don't exist in this universe yet. So I'm like, wait a second here.
Yeah, they really dropped the ball explaining the whole reboot. They should have. DC has a problem where they're afraid to commit. They should have just did like keep the golden run, like keep all the old Batman stories and keep that line going. And then just reboot and do a new line. Just do both. That's why I feel you got 10 Batman comics a month already. So you could keep the classic Batman. You could do your new reboot Batman. And I just think that's an idea.
Here's what they should have done. Make the New 52 DC's version of the Ultimate Universe for Marvel. That's it.
And Marvel nailed it with that. I don't know how they went wrong after that. Because the Ultimate run, you knew it was something separate. Right, and you got the Miles Morales. Peter dies in that Ultimate Universe, and it worked. Right, you still had regular Spider-Man, and
100% because then you say, okay, so if I like this more grounded DC universe, I can go read this. If I want the more classic DC, I can read this. You're catering to your audience, in other words.
I figured that's an easy concept, but I don't
But it's kind of funny. That was my thing. If they brought back the Snyderverse, I would have them do everything, because then they could tell Marvel, yeah, you're doing the multiverse. We have 2 universes going at the same time. What have you got?
Exactly. I'm just saying. And Marvel, they're kind of hitting their head against the wall, because they're like, after Endgame, after the Infinity Saga, they're kind of painted in the corner. Marvel is, they're going to have to reboot after Secret Wars. They can't keep this going.
Plus, here's the problem with that. Their main bad guy, Kang, he got beaten by Ant-Man. Not
a good look, right? I know people say, oh, yeah, his suit got damaged, his technology. Yeah, but still, he got beat by...
He lost. by ants, exactly. So if this guy's supposed to be your next Thanos... what? So Thanos soloed the entire Avengers roster in Infinity War. That ain't Kang.
I'm just saying they should really course correct, bring Dr. Doom, stop playing.
Exactly.
Right? Just do Dr. Doom.
Because according to the release timeline, if this still stays, Fantastic Four comes out before Secret Wars or Kang Dynasty.
Which I think they'll change that name. I mean, I'm not sure of the allegations with Jonathan. That's a whole nother story with Jonathan Majors, but I just don't think Kang should be your big baddie. I just don't think he should.
Doom should, because Doom has gone against the entire Marvel universe many times in the comics.
God, Emperor Doom. That's all they got to do.
Secret Wars. What they could do, just to clean up the whole Council of Kangs, just have Doom show up and kill everyone there.
Yeah. It will work story-wise, and that will set the precedence. Okay, this is the big bad. He murdered all these Kangs.
And then you can do Secret Wars, but actually do it like the Hickman series, when they actually technically... kind of rebooted Marvel, and just have a God King Emperor Doom. There you go.
Exactly. That'll finish it all. And I think, didn't he destroy Thanos with one hand too? Anyway,
I think so, or something like
that.
God
Emperor Doom did it. Yeah. So
he did some. Doom is not to be trifled with. Can we get actual Hulk back instead of Scientist Hulk?
I don't know what they're doing with that, man. That was one of the things. The Endgame, and I'll just say this: Infinity War is probably my favorite Marvel film. That Winter Soldier.
Yes, you have excellent taste, my friend.
Endgame was such a letdown. As soon as you saw Professor Hulk, I was like, I'm checked out of this movie already.
I was
pancakes and stuff. I'm like, what's going on, bro?
He's handing Ant-Man a taco. It's just like we went from Hulk smashing Abomination's face into the pavement to this.
Time travel.
I'm just like, and even in She-Hulk, it gets worse. He's wearing a hoodie. He's building a bar, and I'm like, this is not Hulk.
This isn't Hulk, bro.
I want him to smash. I'm telling you,
we just want him to smash.
What they could do, World War Hulk, baby.
They could, but do we trust these people?
No. I was in a perfect world. What I would have them do, if they wanted to go away from their new Avengers team and go back to the classic people, just have Hulk go savage and kill everyone.
They could have set it up perfectly too with the Planet Hulk. Supposedly in Ragnarok, set that up. They're trying to do his son now, Sakaar. But it's all out of sequence now, because
Scar just looks so weenie in that scene where he shows up with the man bun. I'm just like, what the heck is going?
It's a missed opportunity, because they could have did World War Hulk. They could have done it already.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you got to share some money with Universal, but just do it. Just do it, man.
And by the way, Brown Destroyer brings up the Earth 1 series of graphic novels were technically the ultimate. But the problem with that is that they never established that those take place in the same universe. They were mainly just one-off books. So that was the problem. And Marvel technically destroyed their ultimate universe, but they're bringing it back. I'm late, but I made it. What's up, Real Talk? Endgame was pretty good, but... well, you can blame the rights issues. Well, to a certain degree, but... I'm hoping that now that there are rumors that the rights have reverted back to Marvel, so maybe we can get an actual Hulk movie.
Yeah, there's no definitive answer with that. I know people was running with a story a couple weeks ago because I think something went back to Disney Plus. I forget how they explained it, but the point it's not 100% confirmed yet that they got the rights reverted back. But even if it's not, I think they don't want to share any money. That's the problem. They could do a film, but Universal has the distribution rights, I believe. So they don't want to lose any money with that. And I'm like, yo, bro, just do the movie, man. Share the
Brown
money.
Destroyer asked, the biggest question is, do you think the superhero films have peaked as a genre? I'm sure there will always be a few superhero films a year, but do you think they're still popular enough for a universe?
Oh, for sure, for sure. People got to remember the conversation of superhero fatigue has been around since Christopher Reeve's Superman.
Yeah.
After Superman 3, that was the dialogue. Now, I was young then, but just catching up on history. They was like, oh, maybe superhero films aren't, it's fatigue, right? And then you see what happened with the 2000 X-Men, the Raimi Spider-Man,
Iron Man.
Then Marvel Studios, the MCU came up. So I don't think it's superhero fatigue at all. People were saying that this year, and then Guardians 3 made nearly $900 million. I mean, Across the Spider-Verse is a great film, is making money. So I think it's a bad movie fatigue is all it is.
Yeah, and James Gunn actually addresses, and he said it's really just people don't want to see the same story over and over again, which to a certain degree, this is the one time where I'm like, I totally agree with you on that. So I think that with the right universe, i.e. a universe that starts with an S, I think that it could go, because it's kind of funny. You have people that are non-comic book fans showing up and going, yeah, these movies are dope. And what's kind of funny on YouTube, I don't know if you noticed this, whenever you see we're reacting to the Snyder Cut, the number one question as soon as they finish is, can we get more of this?
Exactly. I think with Marvel, and they're starting to kind of adjust now with these. Well, I know they're using the writer's strike to say we're pushing stuff back and changing the schedule. No, they're reducing their films per year. And that's smart because you don't need 4 Marvel films a year and 3 series. You're diluting the product, right? You don't need Ant-Man 4.
It's becoming homework at this point.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Just do big event films. And if you have to do like a World War Hulk, you should slot that in there somewhere. That's an event film. But you don't need Guardians 4. You don't need to keep all these other stuff going like that. And I think they're starting to learn their lesson. They're like, Marvels, do we need Captain Marvel 3 after this?
No. We never needed a Captain Marvel 1 to begin with, but that's another conversation.
So I think the fatigue with Marvel is just that, bro. When it first started with Iron Man, you had to watch everything, right? You had to watch Thor. You had to watch Captain America, First Avenger, right? It all made sense then. And then Avengers comes out. But then after that, it got a little weird to me, actually, with Marvel, where it's diluting the brand, right? And so I think they learned their lesson, though. So we'll see.
We'll see. But I said this when the merger was happening, because I said that, okay, so if ever there was a time to bring the Snyderverse back, it's when Marvel is weak, because you see everyone's starting to doubt the MCU formula, and then it's like you have something that is different from the MCU. In fact, people have bashed it because it's not the MCU, and I'm like, first off, it's not I love that. My other criticism is that it's my favorite criticism of the Snyderverse is that it's not like a Marvel movie. Do you see Marvel in the titles?
I'm just saying with DC, and if you was gonna do like the Cavill Man of Steel 2, like they would have been filming that right now, right? And it would have been ready to go against Captain America 4 next year, and you would have Wonder Woman 3 ready. So even though Marvel they had a bad year, a bad stretch, like you said, Snyderverse could have been right there and took advantage of this. Because are people really that confident in Thunderbolts? And I think I'm going to check it out. But I'm just saying these films, these aren't foolproof films. Does everyone want Sam Wilson, Captain America? I don't think everyone really wants that. I'm just saying.
I would have preferred if they gave the shield to Bucky, because that's the way it was in the comics. I like the way they handled the whole Sam Wilson thing, because I personally enjoyed Falcon Winter Soldier. I get why they did it, but it's
the film itself, like Winter Soldier, like we referenced that earlier. It was literally setting up. It was foreshadowing Bucky taking over when he caught the shield. Yeah. And I'm like, and he kind of held it too. I was like, I was like, okay, foreshadowing.
Even in Captain America Civil War, when they're fighting Iron Man, they're both bouncing the shield back and forth. I'm like,
yep. He should have took over. If he was gonna, kill off, or whatever he was gonna do with Steve Rogers, just have Bucky take over.
Yeah.
Sam Wilson, people like him as Falcon better anyway, I think.
Well, yeah, and plus, here's the thing. the way they did in the comics is that was a redemption story for Bucky.
Exactly.
And you could have done that with this.
Yep.
Which
literally.
I'm like, okay.
Missed opportunity.
Yeah.
It's another missed opportunity.
Well, Marvel is a lot of opportunities. Like the She-Hulk show should have been amazing.
Yeah, that's a show. I really didn't finish that show. I don't think I finished the finale. After I stuck in there with that show because of hopes of seeing Daredevil, right? They kept teasing Daredevil. As soon as Daredevil showed up, I just stopped watching the show. So
I know. I'm just like,
yeah. That broke me.
Yeah, it's just that show had bad CGI, and again hammering in the nice kind Hulk. The nice kind Hulk, and I'm like, I hate this. And then Daniel Martin asked, do you think that the studios are driving the multiverse concept into the ground, or do you feel like there's much more to explore if done correctly?
Yeah,
what do you think?
I mean, it's the multiverse saga with Marvel, so they're not going to let this multiverse stuff die. Loki season 2 is going to dive into it more.
DC, I could say, DC, I could see taking a break.
Yeah, I think after the Flash, I think there's no way Gunn's gonna even remotely hint at time travel or anything. He's gonna be like, let's just go forward. That didn't happen. So, but Marvel, it's the multiverse saga, so it's gonna be more timelines and all that. This is not a spoiler, but I'm just gonna kind of hint towards the Marvel's film is gonna kind of talk about space and time continuum. So they're not resting off of this multiverse stuff. Marvel's all in on it.
My dad, when we were walking out the Flash, he's like, "Can they just stop with all these ultimates and all that?" And I'm like, it's so cute how you're so innocent because as a comic book fan, that's all I deal with."
Oh man, I tell you, man. Yeah, I mean, like I said, multiverse. It sounded cool a couple years ago, but yeah, I don't think we need it like every other film. I'd probably take a break.
Or it's like it was hilarious when Warner Brothers, when they bashed Snyder Cut, we found out that there was supposed to be a Jon Stewart scene, and then we took that out because it was going to conflict with our Green Lantern movie. But you already told me this takes place on an alternate timeline. How is it going to conflict with this? It's like that. Whenever Ann Sarnoff said multiverse, what always came to my mind is that scene from The Princess Bride when he goes, "You keep saying that word. I don't think you know what it means."
Exactly.
That was me.
I mean,
that was me.
If it's going to be truly multiverse, you should do the Jon Stewart. You should have let Zach, do that scene with Green Lantern.
Yeah, the multiverse has always been DC's thing. It would be a shame if they don't do a lot more with it. Well, the easy way to do the multiverse, bring back Zack Snyder. That's literally all you have to, or just license it and said that's on Earth something. And what they can even do when the DC logo comes on to begin the movie, the word Elseworlds shows up.
Yeah. Yeah,
there you go.
There's a lot of ways. There's a lot of ways they could do it. I only said DC is going to back up from it because I agree. Yes, I'm a hardcore DC fan. Yeah. DC multiverse is my thing. I think in the Flash film, it literally showed you visibly in the comics, the DC multiverse is set up with spheres. Yeah, the Flash literally shows you that. So I'm geeking out in the movie in the Flash. I'm like, yo, this is the DC multiverse.
It's like Earth.
Yeah, you got the Christopher Reeve sphere. You got Adam West, Nicolas Cage.
That threw me for a loop, dude.
All different worlds, right? So DC should be the franchise to do it. It's just after the Flash film, they have to kind of distance themselves from what just happened. I think it's gonna be a while before that. Yeah,
I will say the Spider-Verse movies did a great job with the multiverse, I think.
Oh yeah. I think, man, I love this new film, Across the Spider-Verse. No one's doing it better than Sony right now as far as animated Spider-Man.
Yeah. The Nick Cage Earth was and that's he's fighting the spider. I'm like, yes.
I know Kevin Smith probably passed out when he finally saw that because that was in his version of the script for Superman Lives, the Nicolas Cage film, and that's crazy.
Speaking of Kevin Smith, and then we'll wrap up. What do you think of the whole Schumacher cut thing with Kevin Smith? Because I think that's happening. Because why else would Warner Brothers give him the cut? He was very clear on that.
That was interesting, right? Shout out to the RT Schumacher cut account. Definitely, I try to support anytime they try to trend that. That was a nice surprise that Kevin Smith had a copy, and then he's screening it. Like he screened it already. A couple of days ago, he's going to screen it again in August. I think those tickets sold out so quick. I was going to actually try to go to Jersey. I was literally going to try to go to see it. It's got to be something happening, right? That's all I can like imagine. I did ask around with people. I was like, man, if Kevin Smith got a copy and he's like publicly showing it now, he's not charging to see the film. He's not allowed to charge people. There's got to be something happening, right? I don't got a definitive answer yet with that. It's more just like, man, it's got to be something going on,
but
right?
You know,
so we got to follow that.
Warner Brothers had to have authorized him to screen it, and not because they gave it to him. So I'm like, why would you give it to him if you don't expect anything to happen? It's like even with the Ayer cut, because with this whole writer strike thing, they could easily use this as a delaying tactic and just release these movies and say, here, have some content. Exactly. Release all the director's cuts. Hey, do we have that Emerald cut people won't shut up about? Release that.
Right. Release all the stuff you're sitting on, or license it out. Whatever you do, throw the stuff on Netflix. I'm all for it, man. It's
or hell,
content.
At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if all of a sudden Warner leaks the Batgirl movie.
Oh yeah, someone has to have that on a thumb drive. I don't know if you caught this the other day. Someone put out some leaked, never seen photos.
Yeah, I saw
of Batgirl. And one picture actually showed they took the picture of them watching it on a laptop. So this film is on a thumb drive somewhere, y'all. This Batgirl film is out there somewhere. I think it's going to leak. I really do.
I swear. And by the way, Tavia, they can't release that animated series because they didn't film it. It wasn't because what we're talking about, this is the whole idea about how these things are done or very close to being done in the case of the Ayer cut. Because if they were, it would be hilarious if they released the Ayer cut and everyone's like, okay, never let Warner Brothers interfere with anything again. Because I get the feeling the Ayer cut is going to be way better than the Suicide Squad, which still, I enjoyed the theatrical cut of Suicide Squad for what it was. But from what David Ayer said, first off, it has more Ben Affleck Batman in it, which I'm like,
oh yeah.
You can never have too much Ben Affleck Batman in it, but it actually has the proper amount of Joker. That's important.
I talked to one of the guys that, Ayer showed the cut to a few people. And I talked to one person, Will Rowlands. He's on Twitter. He saw the Ayer cut. He detailed the differences and everything. And this film needs to be seen. The Ayer cut needs to be seen. Now, James Gunn confirmed that he's not doing another Suicide Squad film for his DCU. So the brand is just out there. Throw the Ayer cut, again, stream it, put it on Netflix, whatever.
There you go.
There's no reason for us not to see this film.
All these director's cuts are on a thumb drive in a bathroom.
I'm just saying, it's gonna leak somehow.
Yeah, but and what they could do, because actually, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't also Steppenwolf supposed to show up at the end of that for the final battle?
That's a rumor, but according to Will saw the cut. There's no Steppenwolf, no reference to Steppenwolf. I think that was some scooper shenanigans with the Steppenwolf part.
Because I heard that the reason why Enchantress goes evil is because she was under control of a mother box.
Yeah, that was the rumor out there. I'll say. Yeah.
Okay, I got it. But from what I have seen, the limited amount I have seen, it looks like it's a way better movie. That's the thing.
Yeah. Oh no, I mean it's like, the studio squad, as I call the theatrical cut. The first half hour is actually great. The introductions are great. You're thinking you're going to a great movie, and then it all goes to crap after that, right? So, according to Will, you kind of get more of that first half hour, for another hour or so, So
even the behind the scenes book for the movie, they show there's so much out of this movie that was cut out, and I'm like, oh my God. You have all of this just waiting, and I'm sure David Ayer would love to come back and complete his movie. Yeah, that's the thing.
He was active on Twitter for a little while. He's kind of gotten quiet now, but I'm just like, bro, like they should be releasing this should have already been released. That's the crazy thing.
As soon as the Snyder cut came out, because someone asked Sarnoff about that too. As soon as the Snyder cut came out, they should have been like, okay, just release it.
It's like, why not? It would have been money, especially around that time when we was all hyped for HBO Max. Throw that air cut out, man. Like,
I'm telling you, let James Gunn be the theatrical DC, and then let Snyder be the streaming DC. That's all you need. There you go.
I'm all for that. And then Amazon has the animated Cape Crusader, the Bruce Timm animated series. So, I mean, I'm just saying DC could be everywhere, man. I mean, multiverse supposed to be a thing.
And even Zaslav said everything's for sale because it just exposes more people to the DC. Even Gunn said, we're rolling the license out. So there's literally no reason not to. And the funny part is that I know Gunn said Zach hasn't shown any interest. Did you ask him?
Well, actually, I went to Full Circle, and we all asked Zach, "Are you still interested in DC?"
And he said, "Yeah, of course." Yes. That's when I know that like I'm like, you didn't even ask him, did you?
Yeah, I'm telling you. And even Chris Terrio said, his writer said that he's interested as well too. So, if given the opportunity, they would do more DC. So we could just kill that talk. People saying Zach's done. Zach said at Full Circle that he would still do it.
It's kind of funny. There are a lot of people who said that, he's going to announce he's leaving DC. And I'm like, if he's doing it, he is doing a piss poor job of telling people he's done. Because I'm like, this is the complete opposite.
That was crazy. Before Full Circle, I heard that too, that this was Zach saying goodbye. And I actually tweeted that, man, I think Zach's going to, kind of give us an indication at Full Circle. And I was in a message group, and actually Jared you happen to be in that message group. And that's when I told you, I said, Zach's done with Warner Brothers. I'll never see the Snyderverse coming to Warner's. When we get to Full Circle, it got a little clearer. Zach, he has a good relationship with DeLuca and Abdi. But no, they're not going to restore the Snyderverse. They're just not. So it's about sell or nothing. That's what walking away from Full Circle, everyone that was in the building was actually encouraged that Zach and Terrio was saying they would do more. You know what I mean? So
particularly when Terrio starts bringing up, we're going to see some politics for like Apocalypse. We're going to see the female Furies. And as a hardcore DC fan, I'm like, please
bring it.
I will do whatever is necessary. Because I remember that Superman Batman Apocalypse animated movie. We need live action female Furies, please.
That animated film, I think that was during lockdown too, I think, right?
No, that was before lockdown, right before, I think. Yeah.
I needed that, though, as a DC fan. I was like, this is something Zach would have done right here, this animated film.
Oh, totally. I'm telling you, if Zach did a Trinity movie, I guarantee you it would have been that movie right there.
Oh, man. If people haven't seen that yet, JL Dark Apocalypse?
That one was it came out during lockdown, but I'm talking about the one that was Superman Batman Apocalypse.
Oh, you talking about with the Furies? Yeah, bro. No, that was dope too. Yeah, Big Barda and everyone in there. Yeah, Wonder Woman was fighting them as well. That's something.
Can you imagine Batfleck intimidating Darkseid?
Oh my goodness, man! Like that. I'm just saying, it's
all right there. That's the thing. That's the thing about Warner Brothers. They keep looking. To quote director Krennic from Rogue One, we're on the verge of greatness.
It's so much. And this is the thing. And this is the weird thing. Like, obviously, me and you want the Snyderverse. Yeah. But we're DC fans, in all mediums. Yeah. So, Gunn, he may get some talented people to make some of these films. It's going to be I'm hearing a lot of, like, just interesting ideas for the future of DCU. You see what I'm saying? So, it's like, there's a lot of possibilities still, even if it's not Snyderverse. Hopefully that's sold, third party. But even under Warner's, Gunn could do some interesting stuff if he gets the right people in there.
Plus, he could bring Zach in to do other projects. It could be a Green Lantern project, I think. And then because judging from what I've seen with Rebel Moon, Zach would do a fantastic job with Green Lantern.
Mm-hmm. But man,
one last question. What's the biggest scoop Syl has on DC going forward?
interesting. Right now, again with DCU, James Gunn, it's all on Superman Legacy. But let's just imagine Superman Legacy does well, and they continue. I have been hearing a lot of good stuff with the Flash franchise. The Gunn, and this could be Chapter 2 stuff. Who knows? He changes his mind right every week. But the rumor out there about the rogues, all the Flash rogue, like Captain Cold and Captain Boomerang, Mirror Master, those ideas, those all seem to be true ideas. And Gunn could potentially do multiple Flash iterations, meaning maybe we get Wally, maybe Bart Allen. Are we going to go to the future? I don't know yet which Flash he's going to use. But if you are a fan of Flash, Gunn may have your back, whether you like it or not. I don't know. So this is still way too early to be confident with that story. But it's all depending on Superman Legacy. So we'll see what happens.
What do you think of Gal staying on as Wonder Woman?
I've been told Gal was done before even Cavill bowed out. So I'm just going to kind of stick with what I was hearing.
Yeah, because even she said, yeah, it's being worked on behind the scenes.
So it's a contract thing. Gal Gadot's production company, Pilot Wave, she owns a production company. They were going to produce Wonder Woman 3 along with other people. When they pulled Wonder Woman 3, Gal Gadot's production team still is owed a film. So I do believe when Gunn does a Wonder Woman, probably the Paradise Lost project, I don't know. Gal may produce it, but I don't believe she's going to suit up as Wonder Woman ever again.
Okay. Well, then even more reason to restore the Snyderverse or like sell it, however the hell that works. We can get more. And then a Central City Rogues movie would be like Heat, but with street level supervillains. That would be dope as hell.
Yeah, Rogues project that seems to be true. Gunn is planning on that.
Yeah. So on that note, we'll wrap up here. Syl, thank you for coming on the show. You are always welcome. I mean that sincerely. Where can everyone find you, and what have you got coming out on the channel?
Yeah, so the Syl Abdul Network. I kind of expanded my content on my channel. So I do live streams. I also do uploads as well. I cover DC, whether it's good or bad. I try to give my honest opinion on stuff. And also, I always like to say I talk about the business behind it as well, too. So I covered the merger. That was a big story. And now the next big story as far as business-wise is Comcast is going to try to buy Warner's next spring. So I cover stuff like that as well, too. And other CBM news as well. But yeah, I'm just going to warn people. I'm hardcore DC. I may not talk about your Marvel's film that much. I'm just saying.
Well, it's because DC is better than Marvel. We know this. You're just covering quality content. That's just the way it works. But
I like that.
But stay heroic, everyone, and I will see you in the very next episode on 2 Capes. See ya.